Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin, back again with another reaction. Now, we've done quite a few videos talking about hell and demons and Satan, and it's about time we did one on heaven. Although this is kind of like an advanced version of, this isn't your traditional pearly gates, streets of gold video on heaven.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at a video done by Leo Gura, who he's a very popular Western guru, I would say.
I don't even know if he qualifies as guru. He's like a digital guru.
He's a YouTube guru, but he's always got some really fascinating subjects. And this is part of his secondary channel, his Actualized Clips channel. So I'll leave a link for that. But it's entitled "What is Heaven? Understanding Death, Heaven, and Immortality." Ooh.
Which leads us to the next facet, which is the realization and the answer to the question of, what is death? Or, in other words, the realization of immortality. Because time is just a projection of your own mind. It's just imaginary because there is no past and no future other than in one's imagination. Because everything is eternal. The now is eternal. Now is what you are. Now is I amness. You realize that what death is death is purely imaginary. There is no such thing as death. Death is impossible. You are totally immortal and eternal. As God, as nothingness, as infinity. You exist as all things at all times. It doesn't matter what form you exist in, because you are all forms. You incarnate as all beings. You are looking through the eyes of all beings. So, yes, you can kill this Leo body sitting here, but it won't matter. I'll just respawn as something else. You realize that God cannot die because God has nowhere to go. If you were to kill God or destroy God, where would God go? God is already nowhere and nothing. God is already at the place where God would be if you killed him, so to speak. And then you realize, what is death? Death is just a story that I've been telling myself. Death is a story the ego creates. It's always something you imagine. There is no death in the now, and the now is the only thing there is. Death is, as humans conceive of it, is always some future idea, literally purely imaginary. And you realize this on a visceral level, to the point where you are fully immortal.
This is kind of like some weird stuff because
I'm getting enlightened. In real time, something clicked.
Well, I think for some people, there's got to be disclaimer mode because people with a wrong mindset, this would be dangerous material for people. I think for some people.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering about, I guess because we're so desensitized to this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I always get to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, it's like this. And then I remember, from my standpoint, that if what he's saying is true, then that means the part of you that feels so eternal and real is the fakest part of you. You are not barely even in touch with the deepest, the most reality, because it's not a problem. And if it's not a problem, that is not a typical human's experience. And in a typical human experience, there's a problem, and there's things to fret about. Are you kidding me? That's how a typical human thinks. That's how you think. That's how everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Is you are engaged in life, and there are things to care about.
And at this point, usually comes the next facet of realization here, which is the realization of paradise or heaven or perfection. You realize that reality is absolute perfection. With the realization of immortality, you have no more fear because nothing bad can happen to you. You've literally transcended death. And so as an immortal, eternal being that you now realize that you are, you're in paradise. You're in heaven. You realize that heaven is right here, right now. Heaven is not some place you go to. Heaven is just the realization of eternity, of absolute love. Heaven and hell, you realize, are not physical locations. The only difference between heaven and hell is how much you're attached to your ego. The more you're attached to ego, the more you're in hell. And when your ego is completely surrendered and you realize that you're no self, that you're immortal, you're in heaven. And that doesn't depend on changing your physical location. It only depends upon your state of consciousness. How conscious are you of your own immortality? If you become conscious that you're immortal right now, you will automatically be in heaven.
Okay, so this guy has done what I would call lots of psychedelics.
Yes.
Okay, he's got lots of videos. You can go look it up where he's talking about going on crazy DMT trips and everything like that. And when he talks, you know, to me that can be a frustrating concept of raising your consciousness. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean raising my consciousness? I got this much consciousness. I can raise my reference memories of experiences I have. So maybe when you take psychedelics like he's taken, and he goes into long descriptions of them getting you in touch with the infinite. Yeah. Maybe when you do that over and over and over and over and over and over, in some cases, excluding the cases where it makes you a nut bar, maybe in some cases that actually you're so used to being in touch with the idea of infinite that you've like raised your you know. And I think that people do this with meditation. Like, it's why there's intense yogic practices and stuff like that that are meant to raise your consciousness, because some of those with breathing techniques, if I'm correct, can create like a psychedelic effect.
Yes.
And if you keep getting in touch with the infinite over and over and over again, maybe it's like it's not far from me to be in touch with infinite God mind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, for the average person who's, you know, stuck in regular life doing what they're doing, they're going to have a real hard time getting in touch with what he's talking about here. Like, this would probably go under like the very advanced side of teaching. But if you were going to take one nugget from here that I think he said something really valuable about how like the more you are attached to your ego, the more you'll be in hell. And the more you let go of your ego, the more you will be in heaven. And to keep it even simpler, to say that it's not some fixed location that you go to. It's like a state of being or mind that you're in.
Yeah. And I think that there's like kindergarten versions of these things and then advanced versions. And I do think it's like, you know, if you lie and be selfish, you're going to have more problems. Like that would be like the base version. Then it gets more and more like, no, you got to disconnect from this thing that's so certain that you're whatever. Yeah. You know, and look at how serious he is. When somebody talks with that much like confidence about being in touch, like as if you know it, like as if you know what it's like to see through the eyes of everything in the universe and be one thing. Yeah. You got to do a lot of psychedelics. I mean, look at him. He ain't batting an eye. I know he's frozen, but like, he's like, this is how it is. Yeah. You know, have you ever been that in? I mean, I've been in all kinds of states of consciousness. I don't know that I've ever come back and been like, without a doubt, it's one thing. And that's where you go and everything is fine forever. I don't know if I've ever come out of anything and been like certain that everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. I probably in the same shoes as you.
Yeah. So we're still at it. We're still responding to this stuff.
Let's keep going.
Which brings us to the next facet, which usually comes and accompanies this realization I was just talking about, which is the realization of bliss or ecstasy. People use this word ecstasy and bliss a lot. But again, this word rings hollow for most people, for 99.999%, because they don't have a reference experience for what ecstasy really is. Ecstasy is not just extreme pleasure. Ecstasy is the realization of immortality and the realization that everything is heaven. When you realize that, it's so good, it's infinitely good. It's not just good, it's good to the infinite degree. It's so much goodness that you can't contain it. Your body can't hold it. Your entire body shakes and shudders in a cosmic orgasm of bliss. It's perfection.
And a cosmic orgasm.
It's total peace.
You ever had a cosmic orgasm?
I'm not a cosmic orgasm.
Come on! Nothing beats a cosmic orgasm. No, I don't want to be profane here because I believe his sincerity. And that's real hard, because my mind immediately, my little peanut ego, immediately when he starts talking about bliss and all this stuff, starts getting into like, well, where does this bliss occur? What feels the bliss then? If it's not about pleasure, then where's it being felt? Is it being felt with your sense organs, or is it like, if you even ask a question like that, obviously you don't know, bro. Like, fair enough, like probably, but that means that consciousness is not what we think it is.
Just maybe you had talked a lot about kind of like he's a psychonaut. He's done lots of psychedelics and stuff like that. And a lot of people say that when you die, your DMT receptors let go.
But don't you sometimes just want to give psychedelics to somebody who's never had them? Because sometimes it's pretty strange. And you're like, I'm not sure that I felt that with what I would call a body.
Yeah.
And time behaves very differently and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's even there was like a brain surgeon that had a near-death experience that came back and was like, I was definitely floating through heaven and definitely, like this guy that studies the brain, that you would think if he didn't have the experience, he would have been like, that was a hallucination,
Yeah.
But it gets weird when you start playing with states of consciousness. It's not easy to locate where these things are felt or coming from, and they can. That's why sometimes you want somebody to have a different state of consciousness so that they can, because it's not easy to explain, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
But we're not pushing psychedelics here.
Yes.
Again, there are, it's not an advocation for anything like that. There are meditation means of doing things. Always go to your nearest, spiritual professional and ask them.
Yeah. Let's let Leo close it out.
It's absolute love. That's truly ecstasy, and very few humans have a reference experience for that word, ecstasy. But you can reach that, and then you'll know what the word ecstasy actually means. You'll know what I'm talking about. Some of you actually know what I'm talking about. Many of you don't. That's something to work on.
Well, it looks like everyone's got some homework. Everyone's got to work on getting some of that ecstasy through your legal aesthetic practices.
Yes. Always do everything legally. Always do everything with lots of forethought and research.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
But technically and legally, I'm bound to say it that way.
Yes. No, it's that's an interesting take. Like, depending on who's watching this video, that might be something new. Like, that's a different way of thinking about heaven that I've typically thought of. That was kind of why I picked that video, just because we've been doing a lot of studying of like ancient religions and stuff like that, and some of that stuff. So I thought we'd try something a little different.
But in all seriousness,
be
careful and don't do anything out of the bounds of like medical advisement, really. Because you can get hurt and you can get into serious trouble if you are taking substances you're not supposed to. And
yes,
everything that it.
Yes, agreed. Guys, if you liked our video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone. Until next time, stay spiritual.